We've got some
Hey,
fresh new
I'm
young
Luis.
talent
And
doing some
I'm
things that I
Luis.
know you haven't
And you're
heard
listening to the
before.
Content is Profit podcast. Today we're going to be talking about how to crush your content in 2023. This is based on personally our own experience and also a lot of the questions and calls that we've had with multiple people. A lot of research. Obviously, we consume content for a living. We do a ton of research and we're just going to share our thoughts
Yeah,
today.
but more than anything, practice.
Practice, baby.
Over 300 podcast episodes, and I don't know how many clips, but a lot of them.
I know we might have some examples for you as well, but it was pretty interesting. I had a conversation yesterday with my cousin, and that we've been trying to get him to do a podcast about production of movies. That's what he does. He's an actor, right? To find opportunities, he produced his own short the other day that has been in festivals. And I'm like, man, 2 years now. When are you starting your podcast, your platform? And part of it are some of the elements that we're gonna be sharing today. But I don't know.
Dude, he would be 100 episodes deep if he would have started.
I know.
When we first had that conversation.
And that's just him, right? That's a relationship that we have close. But at the same time, there's a lot of people that reach out that ask a ton of questions and never publish. So hopefully this can help you move the needle forward if you are in that position.
Yeah, and the cool thing is it takes way less effort than you probably believe it does. All you need is to understand your capacity. And let's go with point number one, which is be consistent, right? Understanding your capacity and your resources are going to lead to that. And we always go back to the story when we first started publishing, right? We were pitching some content to some companies. We weren't publishing at the moment, and they said, guys, this is all great. I love your enthusiasm. I don't know if they said that or not. I don't remember, but I'm spicing up the story, right?
Good
and
memories.
we're like, appreciate you guys. And all of a sudden they said, but where's your content? And we look at each other, right? Kind of like interrogation signs started popping over our heads, and we're like, wow, we have no content, right? We're selling smoke. And that moment is when it was like a god punch.
At the time, we thought we were selling smoke, but right now, I would have answered very differently.
You always say that.
Yeah, I would have answered. It's like, this is your case, specific case. Like I would like point it at them because that was the thing that they wanted to do as well. And that's why they were in that meeting, right? Anyways, that's a topic for a whole different thing, but FONZI doesn't agree all the time.
I think you always that. I think that's what makes this podcast cool, that we have different opinions. Let us know. Hashtag pick a bro. 2023. FONZI's winning already.
Sure.
Now to continue the story, we're like, oh, that's a gut punch. We gotta start producing some content of our own, especially if we want to be seen as the experts. You need to put your opinion out there, and you gotta be in front of people. And
again, I still believe that that's an internal belief that everybody has. Is like, if I'm gonna go sell something, I have to do it myself. Absolutely. I mean, I do believe to a certain extent you have to execute the thing that you do, specifically if it's a service, but it's not always the case. So don't let that be an excuse like it was for us.
All right. Can I continue the story?
Sure. Pick up, bro.
So we went on, and the first thing we did was ask ourselves, okay, how can we create content? And in the past, we've tried multiple times, right? We tried the hustle, the hard work, just like putting content out 24/7, and it just became overwhelmed, and we stopped publishing, right? Like probably it has happened to you. You probably are consistent for a few days, and then all of a sudden you stop and you're tired, and you're like, oh, it's so much work, and I'm not seeing, potentially the result that I want. But at the end of the day, this is a long-term game. You need to be consistent. So what we did is, okay, what's our capacity and what are our resources? What are we doing on a day-to-day basis? How much time can we allow ourselves to sit down and create content? Do we need to edit? Do we remove the editing, right? We ask ourselves all these questions related to content creation. And what we land on was on doing a 45 live, which at the moment is a challenge that we created to just go live 45 days in a row, and it was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, again, keep in mind this was 3 years ago. Today, how can you replicate a 45 live? Absolutely, go live, right? You're removing the friction from publishing, but also if you want to leverage clips and reels and TikToks and different things, you can do one TikTok a day, one reel a day, right? The idea is to remove the friction for you to publish and put that content out there.
Yeah, and I like to use this analogy or this story to reshapes people's perception. So you might be thinking yourself, oh, wow, one TikTok, one reel a day. How long is that going to take me? 15, 20 minutes, right? Well, just think about this. Sometimes we actually spend more time thinking about doing the thing than actually doing the thing, right? And I'm just saying that back at me myself, right? I'm looking myself in the screen and I'm like, Fonzie, pay attention to yourself, right? But keep in mind, I actually heard this story from James Altucher. He's an investor, and he was talking about how he doesn't invest more than 1% of his net worth. And he said, if I lose it, I don't really care. It's just 1%. But if it does well, that 1% has the opportunity of doubling his net worth, right? Because it can give him a 100x return. And again, it would be doubling his net worth. So I pretty much use the same argument in the sense of content. What am I investing into creating my content at first is usually your time. So what is 1% of my day? Well, it turns out it is 15 minutes. Can I invest 15 minutes of my day? If I lose these 15 minutes, if I produce a piece of content, right, that nobody sees, am I going to be, upset? Guess what? No, but that one piece of content also has the possibility of reaching a lot of people and potentially creating some sort of results. So just by investing 1% of your day, 50 minutes of your time, you can have a pretty positive impact. Because guess what? If nobody looks at that piece of content, you're also learning, right? You are doing the reps. You are taking action, which you are learning from. So again, it's like a sword, a double-edged sword, which each side is like positive, right? Like there's actually no loss in there. I started like, oh, you can lose it, but no, you cannot lose anything. You either learn or you learn and actually can get a result. And at the end of the day, if you do it daily, you're literally stacking opportunity on top of opportunity, and you never know whose ears that video is going to reach. And then generate an opportunity for your business.
I love this instance, right? And if you're like a CEO, a CMO, somebody high in the leadership chain of your company, how can you obviously apply this? So as a company, you might have some resources that you can allocate. The same framework applies, right? We had Greg, CMO of an amazing company here in town, and they did the same thing. Like they were trying to record, and there was no structure to it, nothing. And what they decided to do to stay consistent, right? Because they had the resources, was to hire a team to come in and produce their show, but their own time was 4 hours a month. And then from those hours, they decided the rest of the content that was produced from that, right? So we were part of that team that helped them develop that system. And again, think about how can you be consistent? So I want to encourage everybody to think long term as well, right? Yeah, just yesterday I was having this conversation with Victor, and super personal moment here. I grabbed my camera a couple months ago or a month ago when we went to Disney with Luca, right? And we recorded this like vlog style video, right? It was just for family use. We were going to just release it to the family, but something crazy happened where every single person has been like, this is very entertaining. We love the concept. All the feedback has been great. Luca keeps asking to watch it again and again and again. And Katie goes
little
like,
self-centered kid now, kid.
I mean, probably, who knows? But he's like, it's about
he likes watching the BB-8s.
He's about his experience building these the Star Wars droid BB-8, right? He's obsessed with it, right? So he wants to see that every single time. And like him, probably also a lot of kids, right? So Katie goes, my wife, and she's like, hey, why don't you put this on YouTube and see what happens? And I'm like, are you telling me that we're going to become one of those influencer families? And she's like, I don't know. But yes, based on that example, I showed this video to Victor, right? And he's like, oh my gosh, man, like I was really engaged, like the 10 minutes of the video. And then we started brainstorming a bunch of ideas. We went to dream mode, right? Which a lot of creators happen to do. And he's like, you guys could do like a BB-8 series and the thing. And there's probably going to be a lot of people that want to watch that, right? And then internally I was thinking, is this something that I want to do long term? Like if we go that direction, probably not. Like I'm personally not a big fan. I like Star Wars, but I'm not a big fan. I'm not like a geek on BB-8s. I'm not going to do something just to chase the views. If I'm going to be doing something, is this adding value to my life, even if it's like creating content around that, right? So
I think that leads to point number 4.
Point number 4, which will be escalated to point number 2, which is create intrinsic content. Intrinsic content is content that you enjoy doing, that you do for yourself, especially if you're just starting out. This is what's going to keep you moving forward. For us, was documenting the ideas of the day-to-day, which later translated into the podcast. We still created from a very intrinsic, place, because we love having conversations.
I personally feel like I deviated a little bit from the intrinsic place, and I could feel a little bit of the burnout.
Why do you deviate from the intrinsic place?
I don't know. I think and this is going to lead to point number 5 too here. So we're like jumping from point to point here. But I don't know. I think I was just like, let me stay in this lane rather than let me also publish about things that I'm very passionate about, right? Like I enjoy reading multiple books and I want to share stuff and lessons from all that stuff. But in my mind, I will filter myself and I was like, nah, that is not 100% related to this. But guess what? You can relate it in a way to, you know, your business or whatever the purpose is.
You can always do, and again, relevant to the platform that you're going to be in, right? Like if you want to be tackling just LinkedIn for a reason, right? B2B content might be the best thing. Maybe transcribing your videos and writing things out, especially using AI. We talked about AI a while back. So again, based on like what is the content that fills your soul or your business soul, right? At the end of the day, if who's going to be that attractive character, right? If it's a role in your company, obviously, what are the values of your company? What are the objectives? What are you looking for the company? It is going to be intrinsic, right? For that, but that person that is creating that attractive character also has to be enjoying this, because that way you can get way better results. And if you're doing it yourself, if you're starting to experiment with this, if you're an entrepreneur, if you have maybe a team of VAs, we highly, highly recommend starting from that place, and something wonderful is going to happen, right? What happened to us is we had this cloud, this fog in front of us, and it was really challenging to see really where we could go. And this is why it took us so long, years of having the production company, working for other people for other businesses. But for us, we never really published is because of that fog. We're like, okay, what are we going to talk about? What's the angle? Like what platform, what thing, right? And the fact that we started with the least friction possible, like this is all together, right? And documenting our experience day by day. Really, this is the framework that we use. Is we grab a story or something that we consumed that day, whether that was content or read something, we would share that, and then we would share our thoughts and then relating it to our company. And that was personally, that was the thing I did for the 45 days, all 3 seasons. We did 3 seasons of this, right? And it was super simple because it removed, I had to think about this. What this cost was a flood of other ideas, right? Because you start talking, we're like, oh my gosh, maybe tomorrow I can talk about all these things. And you can put that on a spreadsheet, and then there's going to be topic forever. And also, FONZI has an amazing workshop that can guide you through, if you're a company, on how to do this specifically for the companies. But this was the internal change that happened. And then from that day on, that fog dissipated, and we're like, perfect. I'm listening to different cues. I'm listening to data, which is point number 2, right? I'm listening to data of what's happening in the market. What is my research telling me? What is my audience telling me? And then you can grab and mix and match all these topics and continue to create consistently, whether that's 1 a day, whether that's 1 a week, twice a week, whatever format that you want.
Yeah, I want to add a little parenthesis in here and also add that, yes, there will be some boring tasks within the process. It's not all like sunshine and flowers. I don't know if that's the saying, but
rainbows
and flowers.
You're so foreign.
I'm so foreign, dude. But the point is, yes, there will be some challenging moments on content creation where, you know, you might have a mental block and you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to talk about? Or guess what? You have a piece of content that you might need to edit, and sometimes you just need to get those done, right? It's not like we're just choosing the path of least resistance, right? We're just choosing a path that we're going to get things done. But at the same time, we got to acknowledge that there will be some tasks that are not going to be as fun, but they are going to keep us consistent, just like you said.
And you know, when you find those tasks, that's a great place. That's a great moment to document those tasks. And that's a great thing that you can delegate to somebody else in your team. If you have the possibility to hire a virtual assistant, you can. If you don't want to deal with the multi-purposing of it, right? You want to leverage, you can call us, the BIZBROS. That's what we do. That's our production company. We can come in and help you produce all that, right? And there's a ton of stuff also that we can do. But again, a quick recap before we go. I think we have one left, but we have number 1 is be consistent, right? Understand your capacity, like FONZI was saying. Number 2 will be listening to your data, right? We can dive into this a little bit more, but what are things that are happening in your market, right? Yes, just last week, 2 weeks ago, we did a presentation, and the beginning of the presentation was all data about what's happening in the podcasting world. And it was really interesting, right? Because we attract people that might not be very aware of the problem, but they are aware of the industry problems, and then from there we can present our solution. So you can start from there. What is the data that you collect on your day-to-day? What are the stories that you're saying? Create from an intrinsic space, right? From a content for you initially, and then start adapting it as you evolve. And I think
it's going to be easier to be consistent when you're creating that type of content.
Absolutely. That's the thing that unlocked it for us and for many others, right? For many others. So number 5 is remove the filter, right?
Yeah, just leading to the polarization, right? And I just got reminded of this recently, and in many ways, right? A few months ago, I started dating again. So, ladies, I'm off the market.
Studio
But
clap.
one of the things that I was
She's
talking
approved, guys. She's
to my
approved.
girlfriend was that I feel like I used to censor myself a lot talking, right? And by censoring, I mean like you have a first thought and then immediately you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't say that. And then you come up with a second and third thought. And we all have that, right? And with her, I started doing what I just call radical honesty, right? And there's actually a book about all that. And it is just as it sounds, being radical honest and share those first thoughts, even as embarrassing as they can be. But also, I was reading this book. It's called Writing Down the Bones. And it's a very famous book about teaching people how to write, about the practice of writing. And one of the very first things that she said is not about radical honesty per se, but I related it to it. And it is that sometimes, like, we need to write the first thought that comes to our mind, because usually those are the ones that are gonna, get people's attention. Those are the weird comments that are gonna turn heads, because usually after that first thought, again, the second and third thought are all filtered down and watered down. And guess what? They're boring. They're in the middle of the polarization. I don't know how you call it, right? Line, right? They're gonna be right smack in the middle. A spectrum.
You're
They're
so
gonna be,
foreign, Fonzie.
dude. I feel like I've lost some swagger in this.
Fonzie, the foreign Camejo.
For the foreign cameo. So you're gonna fall in the middle of the spectrum, and guess what? You're not get nobody's attention. So remove the filter and speak your truth.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of people's judgment.
We see a lot of this in a lot of the companies that we help, right? And a lot of the calls that we jump on the consulting side, where we like going through it, like, hey, what's your message, right? Like, what are we talking about? And a lot of people want to stay in this area where if they say something that's really polarizing, right, they feel very, very uncomfortable, because they go immediately with like, oh my gosh, I'm saying this thing and a lot of people might be against it, especially in the day that we live today, right? That we feel like in media, a lot of things can get censored, canceled, XYZ, right? It can be a very delicate topic, but I do encourage lean into that polarization. And it doesn't have to be a political polarization, right? It can be on the topic side of things. Like, there's going to be something in your business, in yourself, that you believe, that you truly believe, right? For me personally, is I do believe that no matter what, we have to be freaking consistent, right? Like, we control our own podcast process, right? And full honesty, like last week we sat down and we had a meeting. We're like, hey, these are the episodes that we're gonna run, and when we miss those episodes, I'm really angry, not because of the fact that it's the promise. We made a promise with ourselves that we want to be consistent, right? Whether that's recording it on time, whether that's doing it. And sometimes it's with myself, sometimes it's with FONZI, sometimes it's with the team. And those are things that we deal internally inside of us, because for me, that's my belief. No matter what, content has to be going out consistently, right? Out of sight, out of mind. We learned that really early, right? In our journey, right? And again, it's a learning process. I'm working on not getting that angry, right? It might not be the end of the world many times, but for me, that's my belief, and I think I could do it. So that is, for example, a polarizing topic. Fonzie might not agree 100%, right? I don't know. But
I mean, I agree. You gotta be consistent 100%. We just maybe agree in the different way to do things,
just like him, right? There's gonna be other people at the same time, but the people that really think like I do are gonna resonate with me. And just like you saying your own thoughts, there's gonna be people that are gonna resonate with you a ton, and that actually makes your marketing so much easier, because you then act like a magnet, right? A lot of people are gonna be levitating to you. So focus on what you can control. This is gonna test your beliefs, especially if you're publishing, right? If it's your company, 100% go. This might be a harder task if you're somebody out in the company, but that probably didn't start, right? If you work for that company, that might be a little bit more challenging, but there's ways that you can tackle and do these things, right? Studio clap for me? Wow, that's your first studio clap to me, man.
Good job. No, I was just happy that it was over. I'm kidding.
Okay.
Yeah, good job. And the last point here is the understanding evergreen and topical content, right? There is certain type of content that is going to live forever, right? That probably is going to be more of your educational type of content, and topical content is getting used to the trends, right? Like, what are the things that are trending right now that you can leverage to get people's attention, because at the end of the day, you're trying to get people's attention. You're trying to drive traffic towards either that is your profile, your website. I mean, just traffic in general to your business. And guess what? We got to go where the traffic is, right? And I love the example that Steve used to give us a while back, right? When the internet wasn't, invented and it was very old markets, guess where people would go and market their products? They would go to the other markets, right? They would just show up in there and put on the little shop and start making noise. Hey, come here, free oysters. I don't know, whatever they're selling.
I mean, with what you're saying, right? Like we just watched last night one of the greatest movies of all time, The Greatest Showman. With
from now on,
based on P.T. Barnum, right? If you're familiar with him, if you're not, we should do like a whole episode just on P.T. Barnum.
P.T. Barnum.
I just grabbed the book.
Dude, we should do that. We should do like marketing personalities and talk about like their greatest feats. That'll be fun.
That'll be great. But every day has a customer. I have to revisit the book. I just grabbed it so I can start reading again. But it goes through all the strategies that P.T. Barnum kind of implemented in the marketing world, and it's talking exactly about that, right? About like where are you gonna be showing up, showing your message. As we wrap up, we have like a couple minutes left. Do you have any last thoughts on that though, or?
No, I think P.T. Barnum was great. If you want to watch The Greatest Showman, let me know. I'll join you. I'll karaoke the whole thing. I'm actually thinking about making one of those songs my go-to karaoke songs. Probably is going to be From Now On. It's so good.
It's so great.
I've been listening to that thing the whole day today.
Bonus section number 6 on all this, right? Like if we publish and we create and we distribute all this, it's not really worth it if we're not making connections, right? If we're not talking to real people. And, there's been a lot of talk about LinkedIn specifically, that with the rise of AI, with the rise of bots, there's been a lot of automations happening during LinkedIn, and they are updating it to make it more personal, right? They want people to do it. Just today, right? For me personally, we use this app where it collects all the texts app that in our computer, like from iMessage to Facebook to Instagram to LinkedIn. It's amazing.
It's a beautiful app.
But I did get a warning, be like, hey, from LinkedIn, we identify a tool that might be used for automations, which is not. This is like literally me messaging back people. But they are cracking down on this. So at the end of the day, remember that your company, is a person talking to a different person, right? If we're not making that our priority on a personal level, we're probably gonna struggle a ton in the content side. We're building relationships. We're creating that, right? The content that we put out there serves to educate, to teach a lot of people, to attract like-minded people that might need your service, right? But at the end of the day, we're dealing with people. So I just want to put that at the top, at the end of the hour.
Just go out there and make friends.
Let's go out there and make friends.
It's fun. Go out there and make friends.
Solve their problems, get some money.
Go out with the mindset of how can I help these people out? Some of them you might be able to help with your business. Some of those you might not be able to help with your business, but you might be able to point them in the right direction. And eventually those people are just going to gravitate back to you and, be thankful.
Absolutely. If you want to be helped and you want to be part of our community as well, just go join the Facebook group, Content Profit in there. But also, we do have a platform program that explains how we actually did this podcast and we were able to monetize it from day one. And actually, we ran the business off of the podcast for the last 3 years. So the whole system, the whole shebang. If you're interested, send us a quick DM and we can chat to see if we're a fit for each other and then go from there.
Absolutely.
That's the episode, Fonzie. Well said.
Yep. Let's go.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning to the Content Profit podcast. Go ahead and follow the show in your favorite platform and on social media at BIZBROS Co.
That is right. And today's episode to help you. Oh, I forgot. Move one step closer towards your goal. Please don't forget to share this episode and leave a 5-star review. I was gonna say, I was like, if we help you in 2023, I'm like, yo, 2023 is just starting. Dude, my mind was just going crazy, and I crashed. So good. Bye.
Okay,
see ya.
Bye, guys.
Love you.